Everyone assumes that spending Christmas alone must be devastating. They picture you waking up to silence, scrolling through photos of smiling families, feeling excluded from something essential. They imagine loneliness as the main emotion, as if being physically alone automatically means being emotionally abandoned. You can hear it in their voices when they ask, almost in disbelief, if you are really spending Christmas by yourself. The concern sounds gentle, but underneath it sits shock and sometimes judgment. December 25th, without family, is treated like a personal failure, a sign that something has gone wrong in your life. People do not ask how you feel, they assume they already know. What they never consider is that their version of Christmas is not universal. They project their meaning onto your reality. They do not see the quiet relief that comes with not bracing yourself for the day. They do not see the absence of dread in your chest when you wake up and realize you do not have to perform, explain yourself, or manage anyone else's emotions. To them, being alone looks tragic because they confuse presence with connection. They believe love is proven by proximity and tradition, not by safety or understanding. The truth is uncomfortable, so it is rarely spoken. For many people, the most painful Christmases were not spent alone. They were spent surrounded by family, sitting at crowded tables while feeling invisible. They were spent smiling through conversations that never made space for the real self. When you choose to be alone now, it does not mean you are broken or withdrawn. It often means you are finally being honest about what togetherness has actually cost you. That honesty is what makes this choice unsettling to others and deeply stabilizing to you. What most people never question is the assumption that loneliness begins the moment you are physically alone. That assumption feels intuitive, but psychologically, it is deeply flawed. The loneliest Christmases for many people were not the ones spent in silence. They were the ones spent showing up. Showing up to tables where your presence was expected but your inner world was irrelevant. Showing up to conversations where you were technically included but emotionally erased. That is a specific kind of loneliness, and it is far more corrosive than solitude. Psychologically speaking, loneliness is not the absence of people, it is the absence of attunement. It is what happens when your thoughts, feelings, and internal reality have nowhere to land. You can be surrounded by relatives and still experience profound isolation if no one is actually meeting you where you are. This is what emotional abandonment looks like. It hides inside tradition, routine, and obligation. Physical solitude, by contrast, is honest. When you are alone, the lack of connection is visible and real. There is no performance required to pretend otherwise. That honesty matters to the nervous system. The mind can tolerate solitude far more easily than it can tolerate contradiction. Sitting at a family gathering while suppressing yourself requires constant self-monitoring. You are present, but not allowed to be fully real. That split creates stress. It forces the psyche to choose survival over authenticity. Over time, your body learns that togetherness can be unsafe, not because people are overtly cruel, but because the environment demands that you disappear in small, persistent ways. This is why solitude can feel calmer than family gatherings. It removes the internal conflict. There is no longer a gap between how you appear and how you feel. There is no need to smile when something hurts, or to simplify your life so others feel comfortable. This is the distinction most people miss. Physical aloneness is not the same as emotional loneliness. In fact, many people choose solitude precisely because it reduces loneliness. It offers coherence. It allows the nervous system to relax because nothing needs to be hidden. When you stop showing up to spaces that require self-erasure, you are not choosing isolation, you are choosing alignment. And psychologically, alignment is far less lonely than being unseen in a room full of people. If that distinction resonates, it usually does not start in adulthood. It starts early, in the small holiday moments that taught you what connection was supposed to cost. Imagine being 8 years old at a Christmas table that feels too big for your body. Adults are laughing at jokes you do not understand. The room is loud. The air smells like food and expectation. You have something to say, something genuinely exciting, a detail from your world that feels important. You open your mouth and someone talks over you. You try again and the conversation rolls right past you like you were never there. After a few attempts, your voice begins to retreat. Not because you are shy by nature, but because your nervous system learns a simple equation. Speaking up does not lead to being met. It leads to being ignored. So you become quieter, not as a personality trait, but as a survival strategy. Or maybe you remember being 12, opening a present that is technically a gift but not really for you, something generic, something that would fit any child because it was chosen without curiosity. You see it immediately, that subtle proof that they do not know you, or do not want to, and you smile anyway. You say thank you anyway. You feel the strange pressure to protect the adults from the consequences of their own distance. Your gratitude becomes a performance, and you learn that honesty is dangerous, not because it would cause violence, but because it would create discomfort that you will be asked to manage. Then there is the version of Christmas that is not about gifts at all. You are 16, it is Christmas Eve, and the house is tense in the way you can taste. Your parents are fighting again, the same fight with different words, the same sharpness that never resolves. You are upstairs wrapping presents with hands that are not steady, trying to manufacture warmth for younger siblings while your own chest feels tight. Without anyone naming it, you step into a role that is far too old for you. Peacekeeper, mood manager, the kid who listens for footsteps, for slammed doors, for the moment the conflict spills over. You learn that Christmas is not connection. Christmas is containment. Taken together, these memories form a blueprint. They teach you that holidays are a stage, and your job is to play the part that keeps the room stable. Be pleasant, be grateful, do not need too much, do not take up space. Over time, you stop expecting to be seen, and you start expecting to perform. That is why solitude later can feel like relief. It is not because you never wanted family, it is because you learned, year after year, that showing up often meant disappearing. And the mind does not file those experiences away as isolated incidents. It turns them into rules. In psychology, we could call it an internal working model, a quiet set of expectations about what love requires and what it costs. You learn, without anyone saying it out loud, that your feelings are inconvenient, that your needs create tension, that the safest way to belong is to be easy. So you adapt. You become the kid who does not complain, the teenager who understands too quickly, the adult who can walk into a room and sense what everyone needs before anyone asks, because you trained yourself to read the emotional weather like your comfort depends on it. This is how the holiday script gets written. Christmas stops being a celebration and becomes a test. Can you keep the peace? Can you smile convincingly? Can you absorb the awkwardness without making it visible? When a gift misses the mark, you swallow the disappointment so no one has to feel guilty. When someone makes a comment that stings, you laugh it off so the mood stays light. When a fight starts brewing, you step in, redirect, soften, translate, because you learned early that other people's discomfort becomes your responsibility. The message underneath all of it is blunt. Your job is to keep others comfortable, even if it means you disappear. And because this is a family system, the pattern repeats. Each year carries a familiar hope. The hope that this time something will feel different. Maybe they will ask a real question. Maybe they will listen all the way through your answer. Maybe you will be met with curiosity instead of critique. That hope is not naive, it is attachment. It is the part of you that still wants repair. But when the outcome stays the same, the disappointment does not just hurt in the moment. It accumulates. It teaches your nervous system to brace for the predictable letdown. It teaches your psyche that authenticity is risky, not because you will be punished dramatically, but because you will be dismissed in ways that are small enough to deny and sharp enough to wound. So by the time you are grown, the choice to step back is rarely impulsive. It is often the result of years of training. You learned that love could be conditional, that connection could be performative, that belonging might require self-erasure, and eventually, something in you starts to ask a question that changes everything. If being together requires me to abandon myself, what exactly am I protecting by staying? That question is where the nervous system enters the story, because your body has been keeping score long before your mind felt ready to name it. In trauma psychology, there is a simple principle. The brain is not the first place danger shows up. The body notices patterns and prepares for them. So when the calendar moves toward Christmas, your system may begin reacting weeks or even days in advance. You might call it stress or moodiness, but it often looks like sleep getting lighter, jaw tightening at night, shoulders creeping upward without permission, headaches that arrive for no clear reason, a stomach that feels clenched, appetite that disappears or suddenly spikes. These are not character flaws, they are protective responses. Hypervigilance is the word that fits, even if the environment is not physically threatening. It is the state of scanning for cues, tracking tone, reading faces, listening for the moment. Warmth turns into criticism. Your nervous system learned to do this because it once had to. As a child, you could not leave the room. You could not change the adults. You could not stop the fight. What you could do was predict. You could anticipate shifts, manage your behavior, shrink your needs, and stay ready. That is a brilliant adaptation when you are small. The problem is that the body does not automatically unlearn it just because you grew up. This is why people feel dread without a clear story to justify it. The conscious mind says, it is just one dinner. It will be fine. The body remembers, this is where I disappear. The brain has a region that tags experiences with emotional meaning, and it is heavily connected to the systems that regulate heart rate, digestion, and sleep. When those tags say unsafe, your physiology mobilizes. You become alert. You rehearse conversations in your head. You calculate exit times. You notice who is drinking, who is tense, who is likely to start something. Even if nothing happens yet, your body is already working. When you choose not to go, the shift can be immediate. You sleep deeper. Your jaw unclenches. Your breathing slows. The week becomes quieter inside your chest. That relief is information. It does not prove your family is evil. It proves your system has been treating that gathering as a threat to your emotional integrity. And once you understand that, being alone on Christmas stops looking like a deficiency. It starts looking like regulation. Regulation, though, does not appear out of nowhere. It is born from what showing up actually feels like as an adult. You walk through the door, and your attention does not go to the decorations first. It goes to the room, who is already loud, who looks brittle, who is holding a glass a little too tightly. You take your coat off while your system runs calculations you never agreed to run. Where can I sit that keeps me out of the line of fire? How long do I have to stay before leaving becomes rude? What topic will trigger which person? This is the invisible labor of hyper-awareness, dressed up as holiday participation. Then the questions begin, framed as small talk but landing like evaluation. Are you seeing anyone? When are you going to settle down? Still at that job? How is your weight? Each question asks for a simple answer to a complex life. And when you try to answer honestly, the room rarely has the patience for it. Someone interrupts with their own story. Someone offers advice that misses your point because they were not listening for you. They were listening for reassurance. Sometimes it is worse, the familiar optimism that dismisses pain. Just be grateful. Everything happens for a reason. In those moments, you learn to give the highlights reel. You become concise, pleasant, unprovocative, not because you have nothing real to share, but because sharing would require the room to actually make space. And while you are shrinking, you are also working. You watch your dad to see if his volume is climbing. You watch your mom to see if her silence is turning into a jab. You smooth over misunderstandings, translate tone, laugh at jokes that do not land, compliment food you do not enjoy, redirect the conversation when it starts circling the same old wound. By the end of the night, you feel exhausted in a way sleep cannot fix. Not tired from travel or overeating, but drained from managing everyone's comfort while abandoning your own. And then you do the one thing that exposes the whole arrangement. You do not come. Sometimes it starts quietly, a delayed response to the group chat, a vague explanation about work or travel, a decision you keep private because you already know what it will trigger. But the system feels it immediately. Someone says, you have changed, as if growth is a betrayal. Someone else calls you distant, cold, selfish. The subtext is rarely about missing you as a person. It is about missing the role you played. The mediator, the easy one, the emotional shock absorber who made the room feel smoother than it actually was. Family systems tend to fight for stability, even when that stability is dysfunctional. When you stop participating, the tension you used to manage becomes visible, and your absence forces people to confront a gap they would rather deny. That is why the concern can sound like judgment. It is easier to label you as ungrateful than to ask what it cost you to keep showing up, and the guilt still arrives, even if you know the decision is right. Cultural programming runs deep. Family is everything. You only get one set of parents. Be the bigger person. Those phrases do not ask whether connection is safe. They ask whether you will comply. So you may feel torn between relief and self-doubt, between the calm in your body and the old fear of being the bad one. But guilt is not always a moral signal. Sometimes it is just a withdrawal symptom from a lifetime of overfunctioning. Your boundary feels cruel to people who benefited from you having none. So Christmas arrives, and you are alone. Not in the dramatic way people imagine, not collapsed in grief, not staring at a tree like it is evidence of failure. It is quieter than that. You wake up, and there is no rush of adrenaline, no internal rehearsal of what to say, no scanning for threats that have not happened yet. You make coffee or tea, and you notice the simple pleasure of doing it slowly. You eat what you want without commentary. You choose a movie without negotiating. You take a walk, and the neighborhood feels almost suspended, as if the world is giving you permission to breathe. What surprises you is how unfamiliar peace can feel. When your body has been trained to associate holidays with tension, calm does not register as normal. It can register as emptiness at first, a blank space where anxiety used to sit. Your mind might even try to interpret that blankness as sadness, because it is looking for the old script. But then you notice something else. You are not bracing. Your shoulders are not locked. Your stomach is not tight. You are not performing gratitude or managing anyone's mood. You are simply existing in your own space, with no need to edit yourself for the comfort of others. And yes, the phone may buzz with a polite message. Merry Christmas. Miss you. You can respond or not. Either way, your nervous system stays yours. For once, the day is not a test. It is just a day, and that simplicity can feel like recovery. And this is where the meaning of being alone changes. What most people call loneliness is often just physical solitude, the visible fact of having no one in the room. But the deeper kind, the kind that shapes identity, is emotional loneliness. It is being surrounded by people while feeling like your inner life has no place to exist. It is answering questions that are really disguised judgments. It is shrinking your truth into something digestible. It is watching your own needs become too much the moment you express them. That is dishonest loneliness, because it forces you to pretend you are connected while you are quietly disappearing. Being alone is honest. It does not ask you to deny what is real. If you feel sad, you can feel it without performing strength. If you feel calm, you can let the calm be true, without bracing for the next jab. Your nervous system does not have to split itself in two, one part smiling for the room, the other part panicking inside. Psychological safety is not about perfect relationships. It is about being able to remain yourself without punishment, ridicule, or emotional withdrawal. When a gathering requires self-erasure, it is not connection, even if people share your last name. So choosing solitude is not always avoidance. Sometimes it is coherence. It is the decision to stop paying for belonging with your own abandonment. It is the clarity of realizing that proximity is not love, tradition is not intimacy, and obligation is not attachment. This is not a rejection of connection. It is a refusal to call performance a relationship. And that refusal, for many people, is the first real step toward a kind of belonging that does not require them to disappear. So if you are alone this Christmas, it does not automatically mean something went wrong. It may mean something finally went right. You did not give up on family as an idea. You gave up on the version of togetherness that demanded your silence, your self-editing, your constant vigilance. That is not bitterness. That is discernment. When your body relaxes in your own space, it is telling you the truth about what it has been surviving. The world may call this sad, but sadness is not the only emotion here. There is relief, there is honesty, there is self-respect, and for many people, that is the first real peace they have ever felt on Christmas.